Chelsea's tour of the United States gets underway tomorrow in beautiful Santa Clara, California, where we take on Hollywood FC. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel today for the first episode of the Chelsea countdown for the game versus Wrexham in pre-season. Chelsea's first game of pre-season under our new manager Enzo Maresca will be played out against the Welsh side in the United States. This video will go over my expectations for the game, my lineups for the game, what I expect to see from individual players, specific things I expect to see, as well as my score prediction for the game. So, without further ado, let's begin the countdown. So, starting the lineup, in goal, we have Robert Sanchez. Unfortunately, he is the only option. Georgia Petrovic has been left out of the US Store squad as he has picked up an injury of some kind, undisclosed, whatever it is. So Robert Sanchez is the only senior goalkeeper in the squad. There are three other goalkeepers in the squad: Marcus Bettinelli, Eddie Beach and Lucas Bergstrom. I don't particularly expect any of them to get any minutes. Maybe some cameo appearances, but nothing much more. Sanchez right now is the clear number one at Chelsea. We have been hearing rumours for ages now that Petrovic could be on his way out, and even if he stays, he is very much second to Sanchez. Personally, I think that is a bad decision. Sanchez has not had the greatest start to his life at Chelsea. Obviously, he had a lot of mistakes last season in him. The Arsenal game obviously being the biggest standout. A lot of them along the way, especially in the early days. There was a lot of them towards the later ends of his career as well. He was partially responsible for what will go down as an infamous own goal by Alexander Dizazi in the Leicester game against Enzo Maresca's side. We are obviously currently hearing rumours that we are looking to sign a new goalkeeper. Who that is, we do not know. There have been links to Villarreal's Philip Jorgensen, old Chelsea boy Marcin Bulka at Nice, as well as Alvaro Valles at Las Palmas. There's been appreciation for Mads Hermans, I think that's his name, at Leicester, Maresca's old keeper. So there is a very real possibility that Sanchez will not end pre-season as number one, but he is very much going to start as number one. Moving into a back four of Malo Gusto, Ben Chilwell, Tosin Adarabioyo and Levi Colwill. Obviously, Marc Cucurella has not returned from international duty holidays after winning the Euros with Spain, so we are very unlikely to see him for quite a while in pre-season. Renato Vega is still adjusting to his time at Chelsea with Maresca's training system, so it makes the most sense for Ben Chilwell to start left back. Malo Gusto, I do believe, will start at right back. I can see there is a possibility for Reece James to start this game. However, as it is Wrexham and not a more high-level team that we are going to be playing later, such as the Man Cities or the Real Madrids, I think it is more likely that Malo Gusto is going to play this game instead of Reece James. However, I do believe we are definitely going to see an appearance from Tosin Adarabioyo, the Man City graduate we signed earlier this season on a free from Fulham. We have yet to see him what he's capable of in a Chelsea shirt, so I believe we will see that for the first time versus Wrexham, and I believe his partner is going to be Levi Colwill. There is obviously a lot of discourse surrounding the centre-backs of Chelsea right now. Obviously, Wes Fofana having his issues with Enzo Fernandez and his conduct. Thaddeus Shiel just kind of being there. Dizazi being caught in the crossfire of people being very, very upset about the treatment of Trevor Chalobah. Rightfully so, to be fair. Not Dizazi getting caught in the crossfire. That's unnecessary. But the treatment of Trevor Chalobah is very unnecessary. He's a Chelsea lad. I don't understand why we're treating him like this. I understand wanting him to go. I can completely understand that to a degree. I don't personally think he should be going, but I can understand why they would want him to go. But treating him this way is just very unnecessary. I do believe we're going to start with Levi Colwill and Tosin Adarabioyo. Levi Colwill, I think, has got a very big season coming up. He didn't have the best season under Pochettino. Obviously, he struggled with injuries towards the end of the season, as well as the fact that whenever he was fit, Pochettino often opted to play him as a left back, which really did not work. Hopefully this season, and I think we will get to see it, he will play as a proper left-sided centre-back. We saw anytime he did last season, he was so much better. It was just clear as day that whenever Levi Colwill played as a centre-back, we were just airtight at the back. The Man City game and the Arsenal game were our two best defensive performances that season. Coincidence? I think not, that Levi Colwill was in that defence at the time. Moving into midfield, it is a midfield three. And to be honest, we do not have that many options of who to play here. Enzo Fernandez and Moses Caicedo have both yet to return from international holiday after the Copa America, so we are left with very few options who to play in midfield. The obvious inclusion is Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, the recent summer signing from Leicester, Enzo Maresca golden boy. He will obviously start. Chelsea basically new signing, Romeo Lavia, who we signed a year ago for 50 million, who has yet to feature basically in any capacity outside of a 30-minute cameo versus Crystal Palace. He will start this game. He has been looking good in pre-season, in training. He seems relatively fit. He doesn't seem to be harboring any injury problems, so it seems pretty safe bet that Lavia is going to start this game. Alongside them, I think it's probably quite likely that the answer is Andres Santos to play alongside them. I'd say that's possibly a stretch because Santos is set to go back on loan to Strasbourg for the rest of the season, so I would imagine Maresca would limit the minutes given to him as much as possible because he's not going to be around the squad. However, we don't have that many options. The only other midfielders that we've brought are Leslie Ugochukwu, and I'm pretty sure that's it. Cesare Casadei has been left at home, as is Omari Kellyman. There is Carney Chukwuemeka, that is a fair argument, but I think it is more likely to see Santos because I don't think that Maresca will particularly want a very imbalanced midfield with two more progressive number 8s leaving Lavia on his own. I think if you put Santos in that midfield, Santos can go forward, Santos can defend when necessary to cover Lavia if that's needed, and it allows Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall to make his runs forward to bring the ball into the box for the forward players. So I think adding Andres Santos into that starting 11 will make the most sense. It will make the team the most balanced, and I think that's what Maresca is going to opt to do. Moving into the front line. Again, Cole Palmer has yet to return from international duty, so he is unavailable for this match. However, the key standout to start in the front line is Noni Madueke. He has been looking brilliant in pre-season training under Enzo Maresca. I think he has an impeccable season upcoming under Maresca. He fits Maresca's style perfectly with his style of wing play, being able to take on defenders, being able to cut inside and score goals on his left foot, go to the byline, cross the ball. This is all things Madueke is perfect at and is suited for to the ground. I do also believe we'll see Christopher Nkunku. We saw him a little bit towards the end of the season mostly, and sporadically through the last season under Pochettino, mainly because of injuries. Nkunku will be a very key figure under Maresca. I believe he is arguably the best player in the squad. He's definitely one of the most technically gifted in the squad. He was such a big miss for us last season with his injuries, and if we had had him most of the season, we may have been in the Champions League spots, we don't know. But he has got a big season coming up, Nkunku. I believe he'll start as the striker in this game. That is mainly due to the fact that we do not have that many options to start a striker right now. I do believe Mark Yu is going to play this game, however, I do not believe he's going to start. Once again, I am expecting big things from Mark Yu. I said that in the tier list video the other day. I am expecting big things from this guy. I really like the look of him. He's big, he is strong, he seems just an incredible player. But he is, of course, raw, so Maresca will want to ease him into this a bit more, possibly bring him off the bench to score a goal. That would be brilliant to watch, but we'll have to wait and see. And out on the left, I think it's probably quite likely to see Raheem Sterling out there. We could see McCallum Mudryk, likewise we could also see Tyreek George playing out there from the academy. However, I think it's likely to see Raheem Sterling. We have said Raheem Sterling is quite likely to stay this season. Personally, I wouldn't be the biggest favour of him staying, but I can understand why. Maresca's system is very similar to how Pep Guardiola played at Man City, which is why we saw the best version of Raheem Sterling, so it's quite likely that Raheem Sterling will take to the system quite well. So I believe he can influence play quite well under Maresca. We saw the potential that Sterling has last season in various moments, the Man City games specifically, where just he completely beat Kyle Walker every time he went up against him easily. There was a lot of other games where he did that as well. The Burnley and the Luton games were both quite good performances from this. Towards the late ends of the season when Raz was coming off the bench, he did very well even. It was just that weird patch in the middle of the season when he was just so inconsistent in his performances. And again, to bring up the Leicester game against Enzo Maresca, it was a terrible performance of him, and that I think was the tipping stone from Pochettino, because he did not start another game until the end of the season after that game. Rightfully so, it was an absolutely abysmal performance from Sterling. But I believe he is going to turn it around a lot more, and it starts with this game. This is very much last chance for saloon for Sterling. If he does not start to kick on this season, it is going to be in big trouble for him. He is the highest wage earner at the club, and he is not performing to the levels that are required of him for a player of his experience. So I think this is very much his final shot. We have seen in the training videos that we've been seeing on the Chelsea YouTube channel how Maresca has been interacting with these players, and he has seemingly won the dressing room over in about 2 weeks, which is impeccable for a new manager to be doing that quickly in a short space of time, considering how much fondness there was for Pochettino from the Chelsea squad, especially after he'd been sacked. Like, we were hearing rumours that Nicholas Jackson was very unhappy that he'd been sacked, and obviously Cole Palmer did his interview saying he was very unfortunate that Pochettino got sacked. So to just be able to come in and instantly fill that void is nothing short of impeccable. My expectations for this game are pretty simple, and it is just win. This is Wrexham. It is a team in League One as of now. We should be absolutely steamrolling these guys. I appreciate that they have been arguably the most up-and-coming side in the entire English division ever since the Hollywood ownership took power. But again, we had Chelsea, they are a League One side. We should be steamrolling them. We steamrolled them last summer when we beat them 5-0. We should be doing the same damn thing this year. It should be even easier. That team was yet to build a connection, and it walked all over them. This should be 5 times as easier to be able to just completely waltz all over them. It's also very important for Maresca to show that he has got his ideas across in such a short space of time. Admittedly, it is, as I say, Wrexham, so even if he hasn't completely got his ideas across already, this should be just a complete cakewalk for him. He managed the championship with ease. This should be an absolute stonewall win for him. If it isn't, then this is already going to be off to a terrible start, and nobody needs that. He doesn't need that, the fans don't need it, the players certainly don't need it. Like, we need to win this game, plain and simple. There is no scenario in which not winning this game is acceptable. We 100% need to win this game to start our season correctly. It may be small, it may not be the most significant win of pre-season, but it is important. It is important that we see that this team is not going to falter on the first day, and that Maresca has possibly seen to be able to get his ideas across. The style of play will be much more important in observing that. The way we play in the build-up, the defence, and everything in between is going to be more important to be able to see if Maresca's got his ideas across. If he has in such short space of time, it'll be nothing short of miraculous, especially considering he hasn't had all the players at his disposal. Obviously, the likes of Cucurella and Palmer, Enzo, and Caicedo obviously offer international tournaments. He hasn't had all of them available to him, as well as possibly any of the new signings that we decide to bring in. But it is imperative that we see something in this game. We need to see something that is going to tell us how we can expect this season to go. As I say, it's not the most significant game we're going to play this season. It's not even the most significant game we're going to play in next week. But it is very much important that we start this right. Highlight individual player performances that I think are important. Sanchez 100% has something to prove. We saw last season, as I mentioned earlier, that Sanchez is very suspect when it comes to shot stopping and playing out in the back, and considering that's what he's been chosen Petrovic over, his ball playing ability, he really has got to have a point to prove that he can be the number one for Chelsea. Now, I don't believe Pochettino possibly nurtured his ball playing ability the best, but that was mainly because that was not really what he required from Sanchez, and it was just something that Sanchez more took as a liberty himself to be able to do, and I think that's possibly where the problems lay. Enzo Maresca obviously requires his goalkeeper to be able to play with the ball, so I would imagine him and his coaching staff have been working with Sanchez, been working into this to make sure he doesn't make these mistakes and that it is vastly superior to what we've seen last season, and also working on his shot stopping. Sanchez's shot stopping is relatively decent, but he is far from perfect with it. There has been a lot of shots that he should have very easily saved. Obviously, we know the rumours circulating with a new goalkeeper being brought in to challenge Sanchez. That will definitely be in the back of his mind, and he will most certainly be thinking about that when he plays this game. He has 100% going to be looking to try and prove to Enzo Maresca, to the fans, that he is the right man for the job. So he has got to have a very good game in this, a very good start to pre-season, in order to be able to convince anybody that he is the right man for the job. Obviously, we want to see a good first performance from Tosin Adarabioyo. We signed him from Fulham on a free. We've heard some pretty decent things from Tosin. Obviously, he's 6'5". He is a massive dude. He's got a lot of leadership, self-proclaimedly so, and we've seen elements of that in pre-season training already. So we need to see that on day one, that he can just control that backline in place of Thiago Silva. In a way, Thiago Silva was, of course, the leader in that backline when he was here, 39 years of age. Obviously, anybody's going to listen to him because he's Thiago goddamn Silva. Tosin kind of needs to take up that mantle a little bit. He is arguably, not even arguably, one of the most experienced players in the squad. He needs to act like it. He needs to present himself that way, and I think he will. Alongside Levi Colwill, who has got a very important season coming up, he 100% needs to hit the ground running. As we saw under Pochettino, when he played at centre-back, he was good. When he played at left-back, he wasn't always good. So he needs to prove his point that he is a damn good centre-back. He needs to prove his point. And as a ball-playing centre-back, which is going to be very important to how Maresca plays this season, he needs to make sure that he nails down that position and make sure it's his. There's arguably not really a person with a bigger point to prove right now, or should have a bigger point to prove right now, than Ben Chilwell. Ben Chilwell has been on the verge of being replaced at Chelsea for the past season. Ever since the resurgence of Marc Cucurella, Ben Chilwell has fallen in favour of the Chelsea's left-back position. Obviously, he's our vice-captain. He's one of the highest wage earners at the club. He very much needs to start justifying those positions, otherwise he is going to find himself on the wrong end of the stick and being on the bench. Alongside that, his injury record has not helped him in the slightest. Him being constantly injured, combined with the fact that he has not been performing, like last season was one of the worst performances we have ever seen from Ben Chilwell in a Chelsea shirt. Like, it was a horrific season for him with injuries and when he was playing, and he was completely usurped by Marc Cucurella in the end of that, who became an absolutely man reborn under the end era of Pochettino. He has got his position seriously under threat, and he needs to prove himself, and not just as the vice-captain, as the leadership, but also for the fact that he is worthy of being that starting left-back for Chelsea. I don't believe he is, and I don't think Maresca believes he is going to be the starting left-back for Chelsea, but Chilwell needs to believe that he can be the starting left-back for Chelsea if he wants any future of this club anytime soon. Alongside them, Romeo Lavia has a huge point to prove. After missing an entire season through injury, playing only 32 minutes under the Pochettino era, he 100% has a point to prove that he was worth the 50 million price tag and not just an injury-riddled mess that's not going to be able to back it up. He 100% needs to have a good game, needs to have a good pre-season in general. If he wants to be able to contend with the likes of Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo once they return to the squad, he 100% needs to have a good game. He needs to have a good pre-season to prove that he is capable and that we didn't just blow 50 million on an inexperienced 20-year-old kid who is not worth it. He 100% will have a point to prove. I think Lavia himself, again, will know he has a point to prove. He seems the kind of mentality, has a point to prove, that seems that he's going to make sure he is worth it. Now, we 100% need to see that. We need to see Romeo Lavia kick on, because obviously if we're ever in a scenario that we could very well be in where one of our players is unavailable, Enzo Fernandez specifically could end up facing a ban, Romeo Lavia is the first man in line to step up. He 100% needs to prove that he can do that and do it effectively. He needs to cover that back line. He needs to be able to get the ball forward. He needs to progress the play. He needs to make sure we are tight at the back. He just needs to do his job and do it well. Other players that could have a point to prove include the likes of Tyreek George, obviously an academy player that we've seen burst into the ranks a little bit into this pre-season training. Yeah, I think he will definitely have a point to prove that he is worthy staying at Cobham with the rest of the lads. And with Chelsea, obviously we've seen in recent memory, not all of the Cobham lads have excelled and been able to reach the heights that some other Chelsea players have. Obviously the benchmark for Cobham graduates right now stands with Reece James and Levi Colwill. See the likes of Mason Mount left last season, Ruben Loftus-Cheek left last season, Callum Hudson-Odoi. He needs to prove that he is better than this lot and he is worthy of his spot. Now, he is in a very fortunate position that the left wing is arguably the weakest position at Chelsea right now, with only Raheem Sterling and Mudryk, neither of which are truly convincing anybody at this point in time. So he has got a massive opportunity to prove that he is worthy of taking that left wing spot from both of them before we end up possibly signing somewhere else, or before one of those two finds their form, or finds enough form to the point that they convince Maresca that they are the one that we're starting and not Tyreek George. Tyreek George has to have it in his mind that he can take that left wing spot. He needs to have it in his mantle, in his psyche, that that spot could be his. If he goes for it, if he has a great preseason, he could very well find himself in the first team for Chelsea next season if he has a good preseason. This is very important for Tyreek George. Same for Joshua Chempong as well. Joshua Chempong is also in the squad. His is less important because his position is naturally a right back, and unfortunately your competition there is much tougher compared to Tyreek George, who obviously has to contend with Raheem Sterling and Mykhailo Mudryk, who tend to bob in and out of form, compared to Joshua Chempong's competition, who is Reece James and Malo Gusto, who realistically, two of the best right backs in the world. It's going to be very, very hard to usurp them in the defense at right back, especially with this new inverted fullback role that Reece James is likely going to be undertaking. It's going to make it extremely hard for Joshua Chempong to get into the squad. I still think, considering he's been taken on the USA tour, he will likely be around the squad for next season, but it'll be a much more reduced role than he's possibly expecting, because if he's planning to play right back, it's not really going to work out for him. Josh has got a very heavy preseason ahead of him, I believe. I will finish by giving my score prediction for this game. Obviously, last season we took on Wrexham in our first game of preseason, similar to how we're doing this season. We beat them 5-0. 2 goals from Ian Matson, a goal from Conor Gallagher, a goal from Christopher Nkunku, and a goal from Ben Chilwell. This year, I honestly believe we're going to replicate that score. I think 5-0 is what we can expect from this game. We are just a drastically better team than Wrexham. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We are better than Wrexham. It is a simple fact. We should be putting 4, 5, 6, 7 goals past them. I'm not going to be unrealistic because they are still getting used to a new system, but at the same time, we are Chelsea. This is a much higher quality team than Wrexham. We should just be pushing them over, walking all over them. So I am going to say 5-0. If they've adapted the system as calmly and as easily as it appears, this could end up being 6, 7, 8 possibly. But as of now, I'm going to stick with 5-0. I think we're going to replicate the score from last season. We're going to replicate the emotion and the feeling that game created, that we have a bit of hope to cling on to for the season coming and the rest of preseason. So I believe that is where this is going to start. We need to get this preseason started right to give us some hope for the season, to give us an idea of what we can expect from Maresca, to make sure that he has got his ideas across. It is very important that we win this game. So without further ado, I'm going to end it there. I am the reddest Chelsea fan on the internet. You can call me the Crimson Wolf, and I will be seeing you all later up the Chelsea. Let's go, baby. Let's have a good preseason.